Hi guys, welcome back. Let's continue our series on the pitch block. Today we're looking at the Detune block. Now to quickly dispel a little myth about this block, or maybe a misconception, this isn't about retuning the entire pitch of your guitar. It's not something like a Morpheus drop tune or one of the Digitech whammies that lets you retune all the strings up or down, kind of like a magic extendable capo. The Detune block is all about the Eventide style micro shift. Now, if you've listened to anything from the 80s, anything at all, no doubt you've heard that particular micro shift. And as guitar players, we're probably interested in this because of guys like Steve Lukather, Michael Landau, and of course Eddie Van Halen, who famously used this effect. So I've connected it after the amp and cab block. Let's have a listen to the dry guitar sound. I'm playing a PRS SC245 and we're using the USA C++ block with a 121 impulse from the bipolar cab pack. All right, let's have a look at what this Detune block can do. If we just turn it on, it doesn't do anything. So let's have a look at the parameters. What we are going to do is adjust the pitch up and down, normally by a symmetric amount, but you can play around with it to emulate essentially a chorus effect. What a chorus does is takes your dry guitar signal and then modulates it. That is, retunes it by a very small amount and blends it back with your original signal. Now that works great, but there's a couple of issues with it. Choruses normally have a set pitch detune amount. So with this block, we can actually go in and fine-tune the amount of detune. Furthermore, we can detune one side of the stereo spectrum. Furthermore, we can detune one side of the stereo spectrum by a positive amount and one by a negative amount and make the guitar sound massive and wide. So let's start very conservatively. We will do -4 cents right there. That sounds pretty cool, kind of sounds chorusy or flangy. Let's do +4 on the other side. And in stereo, that's starting to sound really, really big. Let's try a few more extreme values. Let's go to 11 and -11. So you can hear there, it's probably a little more subtle and less wobbly than your average stereo chorus or flanger. However, it is making the guitar sound big and wide, and that's what we want, especially if we're the only guitar player in a band or we're playing some kind of 80s tribute band where we want that really wide pitch detune kind of thing going on. The other parameters to play around with are the relative levels. I normally leave them at 100, and the pan, let's have a listen to what happens if we pan this hard left and hard right. And that's more what we're talking about. There's your massively girthy, wide stereo effect. You can also play around by adding a little bit of delay. I normally like to stick around the 10 millisecond mark. Let's have a listen to what that does. I'll actually offset these a little bit so you get that kind of faux huss effect going on. So really, this should be called a widener, not so much a detuner. It sounds huge, and if you are into Van Halen, if you're into Lukather and Landau and guys like that, this is a great effect. But it also kind of does that modern djenty kind of thing that you hear on, bands like Periphery and guys like that who use stereo enhancers when they play live. I mean, those guys use the Axe effects, so I'm sure they probably get down with the Detune block. But let's have a listen to what that sounds like if we reduce the amount of detune. Let's go ±7, and I'll play some single note stuff on the low C. So while you lose a little bit of that impact with the guitar going straight down the center, you also gain this really great width to the sound. You can play around with the amount of detune, you can play around with the pan and really get creative with this stuff, you know, if you want longer delay times. You can get some cool modulated delay stuff happening. And there you go. If you enjoyed that video, please consider subscribing. We'll look at some other effects in the pitch blocks in upcoming videos.